Camouflage?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
No.
Yeah, that's right. I know what you're talking about.
Sure.
Sure. No. And I just think, is that the pattern from it? The edge of each one, the shape is really clear. It doesn't look like those ones we usually see.
Right. So, like, we're used to camouflage being like,
Yeah.
but the style they used on the boats was like this hard edge.
Okay.
Because what they would do, for instance, was when they were designing it, they would take like 3 blocks, 3 cubes, and paint a continuous pattern across them, like hard edge lines. And then they would move those cubes in space so they were no longer aligned. And then they would reproduce on the face of the boat what that pattern then became, with the hopes then that what they were doing was disjointing the visual perception of that boat for a periscope. The boat could no longer be perceived as being straight, or even they would paint fake bow waves on them, so you couldn't, like on the back, just like a caterpillar has like eyes on its bone, so you couldn't tell which direction it was going in. So it was like that. It wasn't about blending colors with paper.
船上用的迷彩图案就是这样的，在船身上用的，就跟我们平时看到在衣服上用的是不一样的。对，然后他们说是他们喷到船上的时候会有很多错位，然后可能就是那个喷的方法，就让那些潜水艇在看的时候就看不出这个船到底移动的形状。
它是第一站后的一个船。
哦，是，
Actually, I've never seen the photo like the boat with such a back.
Yeah.
Because in China, people have the military knowledge quite late.
Right.
Yeah, so this is the first time I know in how to say, in the time of the how to say, the Philip 20s, 1920s. At that time, there are some warship with this kind of car.
Right. Well, and it stopped, right? It stopped doing it around World War II. As soon as they're using radar, it doesn't matter anymore what it looks like. You find it on the radar.
就说他觉得这个东西有趣，这也是个历史的情况。就这是他对这种军事上的这样的一种过去的发生的情况感到有趣。至少如果我们仅仅从视觉上这样来谈，然后再没有其他对于这种事件的相关，比如军事或者就这个东西对他来讲是一个要隐藏到背后去的东西，还是说他根本就没有感觉到
？Okay, because there's a background story, right? And it's a military story, and then there's a kind of historical information and the context. Well, it's not the context of the work, but there's a context, like a background story of it. And but you say what you focus on is the visual encounter, and it's an interesting story. You would share with people who think it's interesting, but it's not necessarily about the work itself.
Right.
And so you're just wondering, so there's so when you make your work, that has nothing to do with his historical background at all?
Well, I mean, I'm always very curious and enjoy researching and gathering information. But I'm very wary as an artist I really hate when I hear someone talk about their work and what they tell me is in fact this exciting reference, oh, like this great story. And I can share that excitement about the story, but that doesn't make the work itself interesting necessarily. So I guess it's always a matter of, if you're thinking about these things, that's interesting, but then how do you discuss the work without making that the thing that you're discussing? And also with these, I initially thought that I wanted to do, I did a residency this summer that sort of focused on talking about painting.
The way that you did demand.
Yeah, exactly. So painting didn't have to happen, but I thought, I would do a series of paintings, and I thought I would do a series of paintings based on these boat patterns, which, there's historical documents on. But I just had a formal problem because warships are like this, and I had supports that were, like landscape aspect ratio, and just thinking about that, I just could never really decide how it would make sense to me to extrapolate. And at the same time, I had this OMD album for a while when I first had it. I didn't know what a dazzle ship was. I thought it was just a name, that they'd come up with dazzle ships, And so I was interested to learn that, in fact, this was a specific thing. And then that album became my entry point for being able to think about that in terms of painting, because it presented this aspect ratio that actually related specifically to my supports. So that's what became the initiative for the series. And then, I like translations and mistranslations. And I had ordered the album on eBay, like an old copy of it, and it was taking a long time to come. So I wanted to paint the album, so I started painting from an online JPEG image of it. So I did the paintings, like the first one on the left, and then the fourth one. And when the album finally came, which is like the second one, I saw how different the colors were, and that's where it became a series. It's like, okay, well that's interesting to me, like the way this thing, and every photo of it online is wrong. Like the colors, for some reason, just don't translate well to scanners or digital cameras and monitors. And then I did the CD cover, so just I liked how it sort of distanced itself from the ship reference and became this other thing completely. And then bringing it back to the ship, I liked how that kind of it's created this alternate thing. It's no longer a warship, it's this ship kind of floating around the ocean with the album cover on its back.
How to say, very good. So you should, maybe I misunderstand you. So you should, when you're in phase you're working, how you begin your art project, you should know where to stop the history story.
Yeah.
You should stop well. You are very clear. And this is very philosophical.
Right.
For people's consciousness, you should sometimes you should go deep, sometimes you should go iceberg.
Right. Well, and I think it's an interesting position as an artist too, because we're always called upon to talk about our work. But it's funny because the work is the work, but then you're asked to sort of amplify through explanation. And more as artists, we're trained to do that. But I'm trying to get away from that more and think about the explanations as an extension of the work more, where you're less explaining and more expanding it, but without
this is very the point is your house. It's very a sensitive place. Sometimes you have too much.
Yeah.
Not enough.
Yeah.